the 16th verse. Do not neglect to do and to for are pleasing to God. Is that Tim Graham over there? Giorgio Parisi is the 2021 winner of the Nobel Prize in Physics. And he wrote a book called In a Flight of Starlings, The Wonder of Complex Systems. So I'm trying to access the scientific ones in the room here. In a Flight of Starlings. The Wonders of Complex Systems. I don't know what we're doing here. So that's a resource for somebody if they want one. There's a lot of stuff in there to preach. It has so much connectivity and synergy with the gospel. The whole book is about Parisi watching flocks of starlings with great fascination, how they move in unison, producing a single entity at once collective and multiform. He wants to know, as he watches the birds, listen to the question. He wants to know this: is there something like a conductor at work behind this collective behavior, or is it self-organized? All right? You ready? So I want to show you a video. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, finally, Rob, the cheese has slid off of your cracker. But maybe not. Parisi's question: is there a conductor at work behind this collective behavior, or is it self-organized? Do not neglect to do good. Share what you have. I don't know much about starlings, but Jesus is our conductor, urging us to live according to his example and to self-organize ourselves on behalf of the common good. The author of Hebrews would have been deeply formed by a covenantal understanding of the world. Covenants are built on vows and neighborly agreements, just like fellowship between clergy and laity. You can't legislate love. Covenants bring sacrifice, freedom, and relatedness into a synergistic relationship. Think about the parables Jesus taught. They were based on a covenantal understanding. Think about how they stretch us, how they draw the circle wider of neighborliness, right, in relationship. Remember the story about those hired at the end of the shift? He said that they should get the same wages as those who worked all day. Have I got that right? All right. Help me out now. And in another place, there is a story of a curious banquet. That's what I call it. A curious banquet. It was a sumptuous feast for those who don't deserve it and for those who can never repay the favor. One of my favorite stories from Jesus is the story of Lazarus and Dives. I'm old school. You know that one? The rich man, also known as Lazarus and the rich man. That's Luke 16. Lazarus lived in close proximity to Dives, but there was an unequal interdependence that animated their relationship. Their relationship was non-reciprocal and had non-recognition as a feature. Lazarus and Dives had contact without fellowship. I said they had contact without fellowship. I've been to lots of clergy meetings like that. Dives even tried to bring this twisted notion of fellowship into the afterlife. We're the lovers of the stories in the room. Dives was imprisoned by a tragically small understanding of neighborliness. He was stuck in accumulation mode. He lived in the non-recognition of the needs of other mode. He probably stated, as part of the explanation of this breach of covenantal living, as an all-consuming busyness. How different that story would have been if Dives would have had our text from Hebrews and the heart to practice it. Do not neglect to do good and share what you have. The question that I'm sitting with is, how different would the Diocese of Atlanta be were we to take up this Hebrews text as we imagine congregations and Episcopal schools and ministries partnering in new ways? Not just contact, but fellowship. There's a subtle beauty in the verse from Hebrews. It's implicit. You got to listen in for it. In order for more good to get done and sharing to be robust and impactful, the equation depends, at least in part, on the courage and capacity to disclose need. Did you get that? Let me make it clearer. Pride must be sacrificed for a relationship to flourish. As the Baptist pastors would say, I don't hear nothing from y'all right now. Pride must be sacrificed for community to flourish. Isn't that true in marriage? Come on. Anybody parenting young adults? If I get a hold of your toes, just say ouch, that's all. Because I'm trampling all over my own. What that means granularly is that we will have to interrogate how we armor ourselves when we get together in rooms like this. There's a liberty that's possible here, but we're so well armored. Am I the only sinner in the room? We're so well armored that we frustrate the very thing we say we need. We do it also among the people we serve. Spiritual growth means that we have to interrogate the things that brought us this far, which we now need to say goodbye to so we can continue on the growth journey. What got you this far? Praise the Lord for whatever got you this far. But now, for us to live out this fluid, starling-like way to be together, we're going to have to say farewell to some of those things. We have a default way to be in rooms. What's yours? Mine's is intellect. Quick tongue, bright mind. It's a great gift, but can be an incredible liability for relationship. Am I the only one? Those very gifts can keep us at cross purposes with the gospel of radical interdependence. Let me give you an example. A friend called me the other day. Where's Sal Moon? He's not in the room. It was Greg, our mutual friend we have. He told me that his wife was to have a surgical procedure. He asked that I would offer a prayer for her. Of course, I said yes. And then, after that, he said this: "How can I pray for you?" I confess to you that I am always a bit startled. You know where I'm going? When people ask me that question, "Rob, how can I pray for you? What do you need?" I think it's an occupational hazard for people like us. We are always pouring out, even when we need to take a turn being poured into. So I took a risk. I asked him to pray for one of my children, my 4th of 5 child, who is having some significant difficulty navigating adulthood. Say amen. He agreed to pray for me. We ended the call. I was reminded of the starlings. Life together in Jesus' imagination and in our text is more fluid than we can often imagine. There is a disclosure of need and sharing, a moving together, an adoption of new shapes that create a well-being for the whole. Listen, the starlings are moving together to find the shape that is necessary relative to the needs of the whole, specific to the change in environment. Now that was worth the drive right there. I sure will, sugar. I may say it several times today, because the starling thing was supposed to be just an image of how to understand leadership and governance, where prodding is not partnership. Partnership is partnership. Somehow the starlings are modeling that. Prodding is not partnership. Only partnership is partnership. The starlings are moving together, listen, to find the shape that is necessary relative to the needs of the whole. Middle and North Georgia, 120 worshiping communities. Not just your little fiefdom. Specific to the change in the environment. What is the environment for the Protestant church right now in Middle and North Georgia? What's the shape shift that has to happen? Not just your congregation. What's our shape shift for the benefits of the whole relative to the environment? Yeah? So, what needs do you have today, I wonder? Not just your prayer needs. That's always relevant. But your ministry needs. What limitations do you have that you are willing to voice so that someone else here can share what they have? Are you willing to be poured into? Likewise, what do you have in abundance today? Many of us, regardless of the size of our congregation, we have much to offer one another. What can you offer the whole, or some brother or sister or sibling right now? I am proud of this diocese. I am proud of this diocese. Bishop Alexander used to say to me when I was first consecrated, he used to say, Rob, you're going to go to these meetings all around the House of Bishops, and you're going to listen to what the brothers and sisters are saying, and you're going to be real quiet in those meetings, and you're going to say to yourself quietly, I'm glad I'm the Bishop of Atlanta. Not in a smug way. He's just going to say, there's a health that we have that other people covet. I'm proud of this diocese. We are a good group. We are gifted, we are smart, and we are hardworking. We are the 7th or 8th largest diocese in the church, depending on how you count. That's 7 or 8 out of 109 total dioceses. I get emails, and so do my team, regularly from other bishops and canon staff about the work that we are doing, and requests for support, ideas, experience, and expertise. We are leading in a number of areas. The creation of space where we can identify Hispanic vocations, particularly women. Communications. Resources for those who want to care for people at risk of dying for suicide. And then there's our work regarding racial reconciliation and healing due to the trauma of white supremacy. Those are just a few I could name. There are others. One distinction that's within our reach, if we are willing to stretch a bit, would be to share like we've never shared before. To find a shape that meets the needs of the whole relative to the change in environment. Share ministry, share clergy, share lay leaders, share expertise, and yes, share resources broadly defined among our congregations and ministries and our schools. That said another way, Sarah, the starlings are moving together to find the shape that is effective, impactful, right? Nurturing to all, relative to the needs of the whole, specific to the change in the environment. Big concept, I get it. Play with it, live with it, dance with it a little while, right? Now, this is what encourages me to stand up here and say this to you. I've seen us do this recently. It didn't come out of my office. Didn't come out of Alicia, any of the canon staff. I've seen you do this recently. When there has been illness or death among our ranks, I was genuinely moved to see how you cared for one another. I saw you without a resolution to annual council, without an amendment to the budget. I saw you shapeshift for the sake of doing good and sharing. Did I mention I was proud of you? So my question is this: if that is possible in response to death, why can't we normalize that approach for life? Brueggemann says this: economic systems based on competition, scarcity, acquisitiveness have become the kingdom within which we dwell. And sadly, too often the church bears a striking resemblance to that inferior and perishing kingdom, rather than the kingdom it was founded to proclaim. The other kingdom. You know the one I'm talking about? The one referred to in Hebrews that understands sacrifice as our differentiator, our add value to the world, our reasonable worship. That is the true kingdom, the kingdom of which we are citizens with the saints in light, that speaks to a longing that we will always have as human beings, that the market can never satisfy. That radically interdependent kingdom is an alternative way to be together. That kingdom gives us a hope and a future, and it pleases God. That's the third meditation.